on sports! All right, gentlemen. We're going to have a show tonight. Chris, I'm going to have my hat on. Please don't rip it off and try to hit me in the head with it. If you could. That is Chris Scarface Fletcher.
I like it.
Is that tough?
I like it.
Hello to my little friend.
Oh, I'm not sure you're going to like this one, Garrett. Garrett, the hippo kin.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Are these wrestling nicknames or what?
The wrestling. Yeah, I got the wrestling. We were off medieval times there. Okay. I'm going to be Dave the Jester. Oh, the Jester. Was that a famous wrestler?
I don't know that one, but it sounds like you and I, Dave, would be the guys to get beat on. It sounds like Fletch would be the guy doing the beating tonight with those.
Or the scars may be the result of several beatings that I've taken, so it's hard to say.
Johnny Rods. Remember Johnny Rods? He was a guy, he took a beating every
who?
Johnny Rods. Don't you remember?
Rods. Oh, okay. I thought you were going somewhere else, Garrett.
Well, that was probably a stage name in some other businesses as well.
Well, you know, back in the day when Liberty Avenue was Liberty Avenue.
Exactly.
There were some names there.
There
Yeah.
certainly was.
Nobody really knows what Liberty Avenue is about right now. When you were at school, you knew when you mentioned you were on Liberty Avenue.
Yeah, there was a certain.
There's no good pizza. I don't think there was good pizza.
There's a certain cachet to it. Yeah.
There was.
Yeah.
I remember in Fletch's room, he had a cup full of quarters.
Quarters.
Yeah.
Bills, yeah, dollar bills as well.
Well, he wanted to go back then to review movies for the Duke.
Yeah,
He had a full complement of quarters to do that.
Right. It was right off the train stop. It was a perfect location.
It was. Let me tell you guys, last night at the Pitt game was fan appreciation night. Now, other than the fact they gave you a very thin pair of gloves as you walked into the game, which I've never seen gloves being given out. I
No.
wasn't quite sure what they were appreciating us. I thought they were going to go from seat to seat. You know, as I saw, I did count 27 people on the other side of the upper deck. I couldn't get a good angle, but it was the place to be.
Yeah.
Good game. It was the place. If you
Yeah,
had
they play fun.
last night.
They play. Their games are fun, man. They really are.
They are. I thought it was Pickett's best game I've ever seen him play. He was accurate as hell. He got dropped several times, or they would have been in the 40s or 50s.
Yeah. Yep.
But I was very very impressed with him. Kid who was quarterback for North Carolina is having one of the best seasons in the country. So it wasn't, you know, everybody was complaining about, well, first they were complaining about, would Pitt ever win another game without a 35,000 seat on-campus field? And I want to say I've mentioned that now 3 weeks in a row. But that was a tough. Hamlin got kicked out. There were some complaints. He was targeting. He was a helmet to helmet hit. But I'll tell you what. If you didn't see the replay on Shockey's touchdown that they overturned, that they called the touchdown and overturned, and in the replay you still look. Now it didn't cost anything with the game because they scored a couple plays later, but the ball never hit the ground. How do you overturn a call? For the life of me, what the hell were they watching?
It is inexplicable. I'm with you, Dave. I don't get it. I mean, look, painful. I guess they look at more than what we get to see on TV, but still.
Well, we got to see some pretty good angles.
I agree with you. I agree.
I don't know how that was overturned.
I don't get it.
I really don't.
It has to be indisputable. I'm wearing a zipper cardigan today. I didn't have any others to celebrate Mr. Rogers.
I am as well because it's cold in the man cave.
All right, I can tell. I can tell you're chilled. But oh man! But anyways, what I did miss and have to catch several replays on was what sounded like a very lame effort by the Steelers last night. Which, again, you look at it, you had no running backs of worth. Your top two receivers were now gone.
Yep.
And, the complaint that was going around Twitter was, why don't they let Rudolph go? And then I looked at some interceptions. So I'm not sure where you wanted him to go.
What do they mean go? Like let him go from the roster or just let him?
No, I'm assuming we let him rip downfield.
Yeah, I don't know.
But, I mean, that must have been a pretty, a horrible set of offensive weapons that you had available to him at that point. I don't think I've ever seen anything like this, except perhaps when Seattle was a young rookie team. But then again, you had Jimmy Zorn.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you, it didn't seem like it didn't shock me that when I was hearing all this, but the Browns apparently were sending a message. From what I could gather, there was a bad helmet shot at Juju, bad helmet shot at Johnson. He was bleeding out his ear.
Yep.
Not sure why those weren't brought up against. I know they were. I love the Steel, by the way. There's this kid for Duquesne. He's my new favorite guy. Not because he has hair like
he's 6'11".
6'9". Oh, it might be 6'9". I thought he was 6'9", but he might be a little bit.
He's a house. He's as big as a house.
But he has hair like Fletcher. I don't know if you've seen it yet, Chris.
He's aerodynamic, Dave.
He's very aerodynamic. Now I say that, and he blows a nice, what would have been a nice steal. But anyways, I'm not sure why those were only. Apparently, they were fines and not suspensions. But what I did look at several times was I've never seen anything like this since Juan Marichal, John Roseborough, where, that's a crime.
Yeah, I think so.
I just, for the life of me, it just came through ESPN that apparently Mason Rudolph will not press charges, which to me, again, it's Cleveland's home team, so there's no way the police or whatever try to push that like they did with McSorley years ago.
Right.
Not Cleveland, but I forget, was it Calgary that pressed charges?
Vancouver. Or was it Todd Bertuzzi? I think it was. Are you talking about the Bertuzzi Steve?
No, I'm talking about Marty McSorley. They did that.
McSorley and Brashear, yeah, that was Vancouver. Brashear was with Vancouver, yeah.
Which would be the appropriate thing here. What he did, he was less than an inch or two away from potentially killing Mason Rudolph.
If the Castro didn't get in there, it would have been awful.
I just, for the life. But he said that he was sorry. Okay. And apparently people in Cleveland, now, again, this is a small percentage. Baker Mayfield, the coach, very blunt, very classy about it afterwards, which you rarely see in that situation. Usually they're trying to defend their player. Mayfield, I don't know if you saw the after game interview with him, just looked at him, kind of shook his head, and basically ripped Garrett apart. But this is frightening. This is frightening what's going on here. I lost my cool. You could have been a murderer. If you hit his temple, is it an NFL thing where maybe you get suspended 1.5 years if you kill somebody in a game? And then these. I was saying in Cleveland, you got some folks in Cleveland that were trying to exclaim that, well, he deserved it because he antagonized Myles Garrett. Which, again, don't get me wrong, Pittsburgh fans would do the same thing in the same situation.
Yeah, probably, and even worse here where I am. Yeah, even worse. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. But I'm still stunned when I see it. When I came home last night, it was early in the morning, and I was a little groggy, but I was like mouth open, dumbfounded. when I saw it, because I didn't really hear of anything. And on the way home, I didn't feel like listening to the recap of the game, so I listened to the pit recap. And I don't know, guys. I wish that they would take this in a legal matter, because I don't know. I don't think a half a season for a multimillionaire, yeah, it's going to hurt him. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think that's going to send the message, because if you look earlier in the year, he's already been fined for punching somebody, already been fined for
Twice.
Taking the Jet quarterback out, both on cheap shots.
Yep.
But it was explained he's mild-mannered and a nice guy off the field and well-respected by his teammates. Well, I don't care how nice you are.
I don't care.
Yeah.
You know what? I don't care.
You're obviously an asshole if you're doing that or have some anger issues. Is that part of it? Is anger management part of the? Of course not, because the Browns don't want to tame him, because he's, his violent manner, like Sue's was, is his game. But I don't know. Tell me a little, Fletch, about, I'm assuming Hayward and Pouncey deserve the suspensions, but why don't you tell me a little about what led up to this?
Well, it's funny, Dave, because I'm sort of like you. I actually had turned the game off at that point, and I went to watch the pit game. So I woke up, I don't know, probably about 2 or 3 in the morning, couldn't get back to sleep, so I just took out my phone, and I saw this, and I was like, you got to be kidding me. I've never, ever seen anything like it. And, it seemed to me from watching the early stages of that game that the Browns came out headhunting. I mean, there were more than a few shots to the head in that game.
Totally.
And it was a pretty classless thing. Now, one thing I will say, I'm going to agree with something you said too, is I was very impressed by Baker Mayfield on a couple levels. One, I thought he played a really hell of a game. The part that I watched, until like maybe 3 minutes left. He showed maturity after the game as well. I mean, easily a lot of players could have gone up and they could have supported their guys, but he had no part of that. Yeah. Now, the interesting thing it's going to happen is, they did announce the suspension, and we'll see how long it takes for him to come back. But Ramon Foster is the Steelers players rep. That the players union is going to have to support this guy.
Unfortunately, it's perverse, but yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
So Ramon Foster's put in a really bad situation with this.
Yep.
Pouncey definitely had to be suspended. There's no question about that when he went after him. But, it was surreal watching that whole thing play out. I have never, ever seen anything like that before. I mean, the closest thing I saw was that Albert Hainsworth thing a few years back.
Yeah.
Where he stepped on a guy's head with
the Cowboys center. Yeah, Cowboys center. I don't remember his name, but yeah.
Yep. And as you said that, I thought I saw this coming across. They did support him. He understands the magnitude of what occurred last night and it's not just remorseful. He's very remorseful. So it's,
his agents and everything were doing damage control within 30 seconds after that whole incident happened. I mean, they had to pull out the crisis playbook and start with the heartfelt apology,
Yeah.
But, it's interesting also seeing the former players and what some of the things that they tweeted and some of the current players just about this. I mean, I think my favorite one came from Kurt Warner. Retweeted, "I have no idea what I saw on Thursday Night Football. How in the world can you be aware? How can you allow your emotions to go unchecked and swing a helmet at another player's head?
Yep.
Helmet you tore off hit him with. I'm physically upset right now, and I was watching on TV." I think that pretty much sums it up pretty well.
Yep.
Well, it does. He did. The Browns Pro Bowl guard, Joe Bidiano, did say that he just wanted to apologize to us. He just said he lost his cool. I lose my cool. You lose your cool. You lose your cool. None of it ever has to do with ripping off something that can kill somebody and whacking them in the head with it. I mean, that you can control your cool. You won the damn game.
Yeah.
So,
and the shame of it was that during that game, Garrett was dominating. I mean, Alejandro Villanueva could not handle him.
No.
And this could ruin their season. So that is, this whole, it won't ruin our season.
The other thing, guys, that I was a little disappointed in was, and that happened today, listening to some of the comments that Mike Tomlin made. He just said he didn't want to comment about it.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I understand taking the ultimate high road there, but at some point, especially a guy who sits on the competition committee, he had a forum to say something there, and I think he should have.
Well, I think he might have out of it. I took it as I heard it in there. He sounded a little testy at the question, not necessarily. I don't know. It was at the question.
Well,
I'm just not sure that was more or less anything more than a I'm going to blow up here if I talk about it.
Well, that could be as well. That could be as well, Dave. I'll give you that. Yeah,
because they ripped them apart on the fan this morning on the morning show for the same thing. And in one end, I can see it because he did have the forum, but on the other end, he just looked very pissed off, And I'm not sure it wasn't about that, but I don't know. He's not talking about it, so I don't know.
I think he feels it's a lose if he talks about it. If he says something like, we're not going to forget this kind of incident, then he's going to get vilified. If he says something that kind of even shows the slightest bit of understanding, he's going to get vilified. So I mean, Tomlin's he's not a lightning rod. He won't seek controversial situations. So that's not uncommon. I don't know. I'll let you guys finish and I'll tell you my view about the whole league, because I think the league has just lost complete professionalism on just about every front.
Here's the other thing that I just found really interesting. Gary, I don't know if you saw this public service announcement that they aired during the broadcast talking about how the league has upped its commitment to player safety. And they were –
I don't know if I saw it last night, Chris, but I think I saw it during one of the games last weekend, actually.
I'm like, and the fact that they're talking about all the stuff that the league is doing, and then you have something like this happen.
Well, but let's go on that for a second. The league, these were some nasty ass suspensions. I mean, the league, I give them credit. They took it seriously, that they acted quickly. And I mean, Garrett could get suspended part of next year too. It
was a lot like the Hainsworth thing, Dave. They did it the next day. So yes, to your point exactly.
Yes, I agree.
For the league, Gary, like you're saying, it was a black eye,
But I think, Chris, I understand your point, and Dave, I think the point that Chris is making. You were at the Pitt game. The Schuster one to me was not good, but it wasn't as ugly as the one. What's the other receiver's name? The little receiver,
Johnson.
That one was horrendous, I thought.
Now, was that the guy who was kicked out of the game?
Yeah, it's exactly what is, again, Goodell and his leadership and a lot of these billionaire clowns who own these teams. It's lip service, and a lot of people are figuring it out. Chris's point about the PA, that they're talking about player safety, then you let this other shit go on. And honestly, I don't think the suspension was enough for the hit on the Steelers small receiver. I mean, it was swift. It was only swift because it was such an ugly criminal type.
They had no choice.
Right. Yeah. And I just think that, all this nonsense that they let go on and they promote, and it isn't just even the football nonsense that tires me about, this is such a dangerous sport. There's a couple sports that are far more dangerous than football, in my view, whether that's popular view or not. But they don't preach about it all the time. They don't use terms like we're going to war and all this nonsense. And then every clown that catches a 2-yard pass, he's mugging for the camera. And the NFL promotes that stuff.
Yeah. So that's a great point, Gary.
It's out of control to me.
Right. That's a great point, because they want the violence.
And they want the nonsense.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. And I just think, you talk about the older players, and a lot of them haven't chimed in as much as I thought. But, Turkey Jones tried to break Bradshaw's neck. That was an ugly situation.
Yeah.
If you remember that years ago.
Well, it was on the highlight. It was on the highlight.
Yeah.
It was on one of the NFL films highlights. Now, I understand, just like hockey and auto racing, you're going to have a violent aspect to this. It's what draws people. But the NFL leadership has let this nonsense get out of control, and they've almost mismanaged this kind of stuff. You know, like they did penalize Burfict finally, but it took a number of years before, as Chris calls him, the criminal was dealt with.
Yeah.
Okay. Teams keep giving this clown a contract, and he besmirches every organization he's with. I mean, you can't control what an individual team is going to do, their individual business, but I just think the leadership of the league is just completely out of touch with this stuff. And then you're letting the inmates run the asylum.
Well, I mean, that's very true in most professional sports.
Well, I think in that one in particular, where you got a violent aspect like this.
Well, that's the problem. But
right.
I mean, you know, they don't make the game better. I mean, even baseball, although it's not violent, it's a different thing. But refusing to do this and refusing to do that to make the game better.
Association too strong, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah. Definitely. But I mean, I think the thing that bothered me here is I think Chris's point's right on here, David. If you watch part of this game or you work your way through it, the game was an ugly, violent game from the beginning. It was kind of like some of those games. It wasn't quite the Raiders and Steelers in the 70s. Not suggesting we go back to that with all you know now, but it was kind of an ugly game from the beginning. I also blame, I hate to say it, it's easy to blame, but I blame the officiating. I mean, this was a raucous crowd. It's a rivalry game, not a lot of like between those two organizations or cities. It was an ugly game all through. I mean, you know, Rudolph's a kid. He kind of lost his cool too. I mean, if we're going to be fair here.
What happened at the end, Garrett?
Well,
take me through if you
Rudolph
want.
was getting hit. Dave, was one of those games where when you watch it, and Chris, you can chime in. I thought I was going back and forth a little bit too. One of my TVs isn't working, typical this house, but I was going back and forth watching a pit game, Dave, because I know you were there, and I was watching this. But every time I saw Rudolph try to throw the ball, he was getting hit.
Yeah.
As Chris said, Villanueva surprisingly could not handle this clown at all. And I'm not referring to clowns like this by name anymore. I'm sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it. I'm not referring to those clown receivers they got too, with their putting their hand over their mouth. I mean, how juvenile is a professional athlete who has to keep going back to the fact that a coach didn't make a comment about it? I mean, do you want these kind of clowns on your roster? I don't. I don't care how talented you are. Okay. I don't need juveniles in a professional business, and
Right.
both of them doing it. Okay. Maybe somebody should have told them they were 3-6. And everybody said they were going to win the Super Bowl this year. Okay. But that doesn't matter anymore in the NFL. What matters is there good marketing on an ad.
Yeah.
But the bottom line was one of those games, Dave, where Rudolph was getting hit a lot. And you could see him getting frustrated. You know, and then the receivers were gone. Every time he would drop out, he's getting hit, arm getting hit, and everything else. In the last thing, the guy crashed into him. And as they fell to the ground, they were kind of tied up, and they were scrapped a little bit. And Rudolph did first grab the mask of this clown. And he did try to pull it. But that still didn't justify a guy pulling your helmet off and then swinging. And I'm telling you, you're right, Dave. If DeCastro didn't get in there, he could have crashed him across the face. And that helmet ain't the bucket helmet they used to wear in the 60s and 70s.
No,
but it's still a damn deadly weapon. Right.
It seemed like a worse shot than he took a couple weeks ago when he got the concussion.
Luckily, DeCastro got in there and it kind of grazed him a little bit. But if DeCastro didn't get in there, that would have been one ugly picture.
Gary, look at it again. His head bucks down like it's a shock absorber.
It bounced. I'm not saying he didn't get clipped, Dave. I'm just saying.
Yeah. He hits him right on top.
If Castro hadn't reached in and gotten his arms in the way, he would have crashed him right across the side of the head and the face.
Yeah. I mean, there is nothing that they don't do to him that isn't warranted. You know, I mean, I'm not saying.
But coaching staffs, I'm sorry. I don't think you need to be acting as if these people injured your mother and your sister and your whole family. You got to kill somebody. I blame the coaching staffs a lot of this too, and all the way up. A lot of this stuff, if you're going to fix all the concussion in the head and all that other kind of stuff, this is a development process that's got to start. I'm not saying in football it's going to be like playing chess. But, somebody with this kind of mentality, and as you say, this is a 3-time offender in 1 year.
Yeah.
1 year. Okay? If I'm running the league, and we know it won't happen, because the clown's going to say, well, I'm the manager of all these. These men run their own organizations. They're very successful in other business. I'd get them in a room like you brought in 1984. I'd say, you know what? We got a huge problem. Our game's got a horrible reputation with who you're putting on these rosters, how you're qualifying these people. This stuff going on the field, fix it. That's what's needed.
Here's the thing. You get quite a few people that enjoy this, quite a few people that are going to get fired up. They're making money hand over fist. The only way sports change is when the potential of lost revenue is part of it. I don't think there's a potential of lost revenue because of this. Because
here's the thing, guys. Here's where it's going to come and get them. You're seeing participation in Pee Wee football dropping double-digit percentage every year.
Yep. I agree, but I don't know that they're looking at that yet.
No,
probably not.
I think they are. I mean, I think that the problem is they're not sure what to do.
Well, what to do is to, just make people pay.
Well, but let me ask you guys this.
Go ahead, Gary.
No, go ahead, Chris. I have a thought here. I was thinking about the baseball mismanagement. I was thinking about NFL mismanagement. And although the issues are a little bit different, they're kind of the same underlying. But go ahead, Chris. Finish your thought first.
Well, I was just going to say that, the whole thing that's really awful about this, is we talked about it a little bit earlier, is that now the players union feels like they're going to have to defend this guy. How do you do that?
Yep.
But they're going to do it. I mean, the team is, instead of following through with what they said last night, all this, well, he said he's sorry. Well,
I don't really care, but yeah. Yep.
What is that doing? I mean, he said he's sorry. I'm happy. He's apologized. He's an asshole and could have killed somebody. This is not just a normal NFL guy gone wild thing. This takes it to a new thing. And I until they start losing the money, I mean, I think they're more afraid of the lawsuits, but again, out of all this money they're supposed to pay the old players, from what I gather, so far they've only had to pay a very small fraction of it.
10% or something I read. Yeah, it's minimal.
Yeah.
It's been horrible, man.
It's a horrible thing they do there as well. But we've made the game almost unwatchable.
I agree.
Because of this have to be right on every call. We've got a replay way too often. We got a penalty flag on every punt and kickoff. It slows the game down to a molasses.
Yeah.
The advertising. Now they decided, well, we're going to put this little on. It's still 3 minutes. You got these ridiculous rules. You can't even touch a wide receiver because what the hell 13 officials were looking at last year in that Saints Rams game. But because of the controversy of that, this year you can't even touch the guy's arm.
Although I got to tell you, I get a little kick out of their FU response to being able to review the pass interference call, which basically never gets overturned.
Yeah. It's like, why are you bothering to do that?
Yeah.
I mean, they've worried about the stuff like pass interference, which I think is too, it's not tag football. The game now, every team looks the same. Nobody uses a fullback or tight end anymore. Every team looks the exact same way. Games are too long. Some of these games are 3:45, similar to baseball. All these fires burning.
I thought that last night as I was watching a 4-hour college football game that nobody's bitching about the
environment's better. Environment's probably better, I think, and maybe that's part of it. But, all these fires burning, and then you got the fire burning of the concussion issue and still some bad hits. Guys really disrespecting the league with their language, with their Twitter bullshit. I know you can't stop all that, but still, you represent that organization just like the organizations we work with. All these fires burning, Goodell not doing anything, owners not doing anything about it. You're right, they're making money hand over fist, Dave, but I think that long term, a lot of people are starting to get turned off. I think the ratings are still pretty good in places like Pittsburgh, but they're not as good in some other cities.
Yeah.
I think it's slow, but I think it's starting.
I always see this as they always seem to have some sort of reaction. And again, not wanting to bring this up as a situation, but even when people were going to leave the NFL because of Kaepernick, they all came back, just about all of them. If somebody said they didn't, they're in a small minority. So no matter, and the fact that people are more concerned about that than somebody getting clubbed over the head just speaks volumes too.
I think in society we're in, I think it does. I agree.
But let me say this too. if you love football, come over to the college side, because the game may be a little longer, but it's more under control, more exciting, better atmosphere. Not saying Pitt was a good atmosphere last night, but you know what? The game was great. The game was fun. It took 4 hours, but it flowed well. You know, when you got a questionable hit, I mean, Hamlin deserved to get his targeting call, but you know what? They dealt with it good, and it was a situation where he maybe just nicked the helmet. But you know what? It was a swift. It's a good rule, even if it takes a couple seconds to look and make sure that it is.
Yep.
But it is a much better game. It's much better game.
I don't have the college football access you guys do because of where I live. I mean, college football in the Mid-Atlantic is not a big deal. Even at Rutgers is in the Big Ten. But whenever I've gone to like ACC years ago, or I've gone to some other places, it's just a little less alcohol less fueled, less anger charge. I don't know what it's like in Pittsburgh. Some of Patty's relatives have talked to me about this.
There were 36 people on the other side of the stadium, so if you want to know what it's like in Pittsburgh.
No, but I meant in pro football. I think football here and in the East and the Giants and stuff, it's an anger-charged, a completely sauced environment, which adds to some of this nonsense. I don't know about – that didn't cause some guy to take his helmet off like a club. But I just think your point about people kind of like this – you know, but the NFL is walking a dangerous line here. You know, you're starting to walk a dangerous line of getting attention because of controversy and not really fixing a problem. And I think it's a dangerous line. But you're right. As long as money's flowing in, and it is, it's not an easy fix. It's just not an easy fix.
No, it's not an easy fix, but you have to be committed to it on all levels. The difference is between college football and pro football, these kids aren't well, kids in Alabama may be millionaires, but generally, you know,
that's my feeling. That's my feeling. Yep.
These guys. So what happens to Garrett if he never plays again? He's still a multimillionaire.
Yep.
It's going to take some of the, and he's successful because of his violence, because of his violent nature.
Let me ask you this, guys. Do you think Rudolph should have pressed charges?
I'm trying to decide on that. I'm going to have to take a pass and think about that if we ever come back to this.
I wish he would have. But as a football player, I do probably, in that situation, I do the same thing as Rudolph did, because you got a target on your back you don't want at that point if you press charges.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's a tough call there.
But it's the point where the police department would be the one, just like it happened in hockey,
right,
who would have to take it up. And
right.
You know,
right.
They're not going to do it.
Right.
Or not the police department, but I'm sorry, the district attorney would be the one who I would think would be the one to make that decision.
Well, when Todd Bertuzzi attacked Steve Moore back in 2006, in Western Canada, it got to very high levels. And Bertuzzi did get sued. He had to pay a lot of money. So the Vancouver Canucks to Moore over a period of time. So, you know, it can get there. But yeah, I don't know about pressing the charges, but I'm, again, just very disappointed. There should have been more public speak about this, again, from the leadership. Goodell is very similar to this other clown running in baseball. He hides in the shadows now. You know, I don't like that. I think if we had a business that we fed people bad meat, we would get on the air and say, look, here's what you've got to do. This is what happened, and here's how we're going to fix it. And I just think in a business with these kind of billions, I just think it's Bush League leadership. I think some of these owners, I mean, I worked for one complete obnoxious individual, no common sense, have no idea what the rest of the world lives like. You know, there's a lot of those in the NFL. I mean, they're out of touch here with some of this stuff. But as long as money's flowing in, Dave, I hate to say it. But
again, whose responsibility? I mean, and I'm asking that as a question because Goodell's main job, a commissioner's main job, while it might have used to be keeping the integrity of the sport and keeping the sport, the main job is to figure out revenue sources.
You can do both, though.
That's the job.
You can do both.
You can do both, but that's not what he's being asked.
Well, that's because of the egomaniacs who run these teams. And I think a big part of this is the coaching staffs, and we're probably going to run out of time, but I honestly think, any professional in any business, one of the things that makes you a professional is your composure, which one of you guys said initially. If you lack so much composure that you rip somebody's helmet off and try to swing it, you don't belong in professional football or professional anything.
Yeah. But he will be back next year, and he will do something stupid next year.
Yep. 3 times this year, Dave.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But I will mention something, gentlemen. At one point, Duquesne was up 22-18 in the ball game. It is now 55-30.
They're up 55-30.
Just an incredible, and they're missing a ton of foul shots in this contest. So could be double. And I like this team. I like their defense. I love Steele. DUQ, not sure about on the front.
Yeah, I hear you.
But we'll come back. We'll come back to this. We're gonna do an hour-long show tonight, so we're gonna come back to this. We're gonna take a little break now.
Okay.
But we will be back.
All right.
All right, gentlemen. Back for our second half of the show. I want to say it's a little depressing this week. It's International Week in British soccer, where they take the week off. So the internationals, the USA is part of International Week, defeating Canada right now. Hard-fought game. So I'm a little depressed. I won't see Liverpool, who you correctly heard here last week that they would punish Man City. Which, by the way, they did. 3-1. I won't make you guys sing.
Well, the season's just starting, so, right?
It's early in the season, but to have a 9-point lead this early in the season, it's pretty heady stuff.
No, but I meant we need to rehearse the singing, I think.
Okay, we could have
assuming that we drive deep like we did last year, we'll have to rehearse the singing.
Gentlemen, there's not enough hours for us.
Probably not, but our ratings might go up, though. Our ratings might go up if we really try to get this down.
Do the extended dance mix this time.
Yeah. I like the dance mix. I think that's part of it.
We'll put on suits like Chris Kattan and Farrell used to wear. We'll put like a purple and a blue suit on too.
Let's put it this way: if they end the 30-year streak of not winning the Premier League this year, there will be dancing, there will be singing.
I think they'll be drinking too somehow.
I would sense that would be. Yes.
I think we do it on the show. I think it would be very interesting to start us out sober. And as the show of Liverpool celebration goes on, it will be of Liverpool celebration, by the way.
That would be a good show. That would be an entertaining one. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
We get more fans like Fletch has.
Here's an interesting thing. This is kind of cool. Bill Russell is accepting his Hall of Fame ring tonight in a private ceremony.
In Boston?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm just reading this as it's coming across. In 1975, he didn't accept it, feeling he shouldn't have been the first African-American in the Hall of Fame. This guy is just a neat guy. He's a neat guy to listen to.
I honestly did not know that.
I'm just seeing this come across here, and apparently, and afterwards, I'm going to take a look at the video. Apparently, he gives Chuck Cooper his props in the ceremony. So
he was one of the prominent ones in the center of the thing at the Hall of Fame night this year. He was one of the ones.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, here's an interesting. I've been doing the book with his son, the biography. Came across a neat thing in the Courier, where apparently after his junior season, he was offered a contract from Rochester, the New York Knicks, Chicago Stags, and of course the Globetrotters, who he eventually signed with after graduating at Duquesne. But imagine, if you will, he was considering leaving school after his junior year to sign one of these contracts.
Wow. Imagine,
if you will, had he done it at that point. Didn't have the cover of Earl Lloyd or Sweetwater Clifton as far as who the true Jackie Robinson of basketball was. I mean, he would have had it all to himself, and I'm assuming at that point in time, the press would have been incredibly after it. On the other end, it would have been more difficult for him to do that all on his own. So just neat things you pick up that nobody's ever really talked about.
I never knew that.
But that would have changed the course of certainly history in basketball right there had he chosen to take the money.
Was Clifton the same? Was Clifton the same year as Lloyd and him? Was Clifton?
What the thing was? Chuck was the first to be drafted.
Okay.
Right.
Clifton was the first to sign a contract. There was another guy who signed a contract, but he was cut fairly quick. So they don't really count him because he never played in the NBA. His contract was cut fairly quickly.
Right.
And Earl Lloyd was the first to play because of a quirk of the schedule that saw them have a game scheduled before Celtics, which actually, if you look back, and I know it's exhibition, so it technically doesn't count, but Chuck Cooper actually was on an NBA court as an NBA player before any of them in the exhibition, but doesn't count because it was exhibition. But these are kind of the neat things you pick up along the way.
I guess I had thought Clifton. I guess I shouldn't have thought that, but I thought Clifton was a little bit earlier. But that's just my own error.
He was a star with the Globetrotters.
I was going to say Globetrotters.
Yeah, so he was a well-known player, but wasn't in the NBA. And I mean, it's always a little clouded too by the fact that, I mean, there were African American players during the war in the NBL, which wasn't the NBA, but
right.
But still, it doesn't take away from what Chuck accomplished, because he went through a difficult time in Boston and a difficult time integrating the sport. And it is neat to see players like Bill Russell and as I'm going through some interviews they did at the Hall of Fame that they sent to me, Bill Walton says some tremendous things. Kareem says some tremendous things. Dr. Dick Barnett, it's not that he's disrespecting Chuck Cooper's contribution, but he keeps trying to take the conversation to Wilt Chamberlain being more responsible for integrating the sport. And I mean, there's points to it because, I mean, Chamberlain was so great and was more an integral part of but it's just interesting to go through this. And I mean, anything that, there was a thing in the Boston Celtic Encyclopedia from Peter, I don't know how you pronounce his last name, he's a baseball writer, Bjarkman or...
Oh, yeah, okay. You read the books on Cuban baseball.
Right. But he goes off trying to disrespect Chuck by saying, trying to point out in a minor league they had African Americans, which is what the NBL was at the time for all intents and purposes.
It was. Right.
And to do stuff like that is just irritates me. And it was great to hear how these guys at the Hall of Fame enshrinement, he had more superstars in line to present him than anybody in any sport I've ever seen.
I've never seen anything like that, I got to tell you. That was
just the talent that was assembled on that stage was just mind-boggling.
And the fact that they had all talked about it and they clearly were planning to do that was amazing in itself, with all those egos and everything else. I mean, that was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the respect this guy got, even back in the day, I came across a thing where he played in what the basketball equivalent of the East-West Shrine game would have been. And, at a time where race was still an issue, he was elected co-captain by his teammates, or with Bob Cousy, which to me, that's a hell of a sign for the time. It shows you the kind of leader this guy was.
Yep.
But anyways, it was kind of neat as I saw that come across from Bill Russell. But I also went through, I decided to go through some of the clips from last night. What actually caused him not to get hurt was him tilting his head at the last second.
Yep.
Away from it. De Castro puts his arm up, but he doesn't actually.
He didn't stop the swing
after he hits him.
Yeah, he didn't stop the swing.
I could see why Pouncey got the suspension for sure. I didn't notice
Me too.
the Camp Hayward, but I mean, you're going to kick somebody in the head. I understand you're defending somebody, And my girl, I don't know if you've ever seen Elle Johnson, who's a huge Michigan fan. The picture she posts after a Michigan win. It's nice. It's a happy post. But she gets in her bikini and posts for Marquise Pouncey, who she claims is her new favorite player.
Good to be Marquise.
Good to be Marquise. But
I think Pouncey was just so infuriated. I mean, he looked infuriated.
Oh, yeah. I
think he was
why.
just so infuriated at this Bush League behavior.
And for anybody who tries to blame Rudolph, I didn't see who it was. Who I assume it was Garrett who grabbed him well after the pass was thrown and continued to go down to push him into the ground.
Definitely.
How was that Rudolph antagonizing him?
It wasn't.
For the life of me, how is that antagonizing?
It wasn't. Rudolph was clearly frustrated, Dave, because it was one of those games that Fletch, you could chime in. He was getting hit pretty much every play, and they couldn't do anything. They couldn't get it.
I think the other part of it is he was trying to get him off of him. Rudolph hit him in the nether regions.
He did. He kicked him. He kicked him, and he pulled at his mask. Yeah.
And I think that's. But again, as you said, Dave, that doesn't give you carte blanche. Take the guy's helmet off. And beat the living snot out of him.
I'm sorry, it does not. You can't control yourself. Shouldn't be playing the NFL. Sorry.
Not in any way, shape, or form. I absolutely agree with that. I was looking at some of the responses from some of the ESPN heads. They were almost all in agreement that the guy needs to be suspended the rest of the year. Blah blah blah. Max Kellerman only thought he should be suspended one game because there are already rules in there to deal with it, which should have kicked him out the remainder of that game, which wanted to explain to Max that the game was over at the time.
Yeah.
So
Kellerman is an ass.
Well, I'm going to comment on that one. This guy has become nothing but a complete blowhard for marketing.
Yeah.
I mean, in the one breath, he criticized when Day got knocked down. Then 2 days later, when he faced criticism, he completely reversed his field.
Yeah.
I'm sick of this guy, okay? He's a phony. He's a fraud.
He wants to be Stephen A. Smith, but he doesn't have Stephen A. Smith's charm, Yeah.
Well, everybody knows Smith's full of opinion, and he's obnoxious. But I think he's being real. I think this guy fluctuates depending on whatever the mood is.
Which way the wind blows. And I soured on him a long time ago watching him around boxing, Gary.
Totally agree.
Totally agree. That's your area of expertise. But after a while, I was like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Well, I get the sense
he'd like to hear himself talk.
Yeah, totally. And I get the sense they had 2 shows that were on. One was Dan Raphael's. Raphael's not photogenic. He's not even that personality filled, but he's excellent. They had another one with Kriegel, and I think it was – now Mannix did leave. Chris Mannix left and went to the competitor DAZN. But I swear, the minute Kellerman got back there, he had some leverage for some reason. And he drove 2 good shows out so we could listen to his ridiculous Max on Boxing. He's talking about stuff that's nonsense for half an hour. I don't even watch it. Somehow he's got pictures or something. So, Dave, any opinion of his, not credible to me.
Well,
are you saying he has pictures of you, or are you saying he just has pictures?
But I'm serious. I'm pissed off because Dan Raphael's show was good, and so was the show with Kriegel, okay? Yeah. And they took those off to put this, whatever you want to call it. We got an FCC here. Whatever you want to call this, you know what.
Give him the FCC finger, man.
I mean, he doesn't – this guy, I've had it with this guy. And honestly, I don't really want to hear him comment about the NBA and NFL. He doesn't know shit about it.
No.
At least Smith knows a little more.
Well, I mean, the thing that really pissed me off is I don't fancy myself to be a boxing historian. I know some things. But this guy was trying to present himself as a boxing historian. He wasn't.
No. He started in 1995.
He was with Teddy Atlas one time, and I could see that Teddy Atlas was looking at him like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Pretty much. And then him and Lampley became, like the world we're in, at the end of HBO, him and Lampley became social commentators. Sorry, tell me about the boxing. Tell me about what we're going to look for. Tell me about the significance of the next business. I don't need to hear your opinion. But this situation, where did he come up with that? Because they have rules about it? I mean, hey, Clown, did you watch the highlights?
It's
knocked the guy's head off.
He thought his impression. What I took of his impression was, it's part of the game, and just deal with it in the game.
Boys.
Okay, sorry about that. No, it's not.
No, it's.
If they would have wrestled around the ground and thrown a couple punches or something, that might be part of something as competitive as football. But
I was glad you didn't put in if they want to roll around in their underwear. I was glad you kept that out.
There's other competitions for that. There's other competitions for that, but not.
Yes. Okay.
But I mean, I just think, I think he has become clearly somebody who wants. It's almost like, I don't know, Chris. I guess that's true. He wants to compete with Smith for attention, so he figured if he said something a little controversial, people are going to tweeter him up or whatever. I don't listen.
You know my feelings about people claiming journalism is about getting clicks.
Yeah,
I understand that from people that own multimedia things, but any respecting journalist, that can't be what the most important part of your job is.
No,
agreed.
Get the story right, people.
Get the story right.
Yep.
Well, any more on the Steelers situation?
You mean as far as their future? You mean what happened last night?
Just as far as this situation.
I mean, I think I want the league to step up its professionalism in all ways. And I know you're right, Dave, about this job in baseball or whatever has become a revenue generation, whether it's pink bats, blue bats, or football. We got to put, our logos on baby bibs. But I think that's why you have leaders.
By the way, I bought a set of Pirate, Steeler, and Penguin bibs for my grandson.
Well, you got to start out right.
With the logos. With the logos.
Right. You got to start out right.
Hey, I got him the 21 onesie,
I have a onesie on underneath this, but with a
they are. It was what he looked best in, by the way. It was a classic. That was a cool thing. That was really cool.
My image is more than the Steelers. I want the league to step up its professionalism, not just with situations like this, but just. It infuriates me that camera keeps going on this clown Beckham, who behaved like an absolute jackass in that game against Ramsey on national TV a couple years ago. It cost the Giants that game. This clown is not that good. He's fast. He's not that good. A lot of teams didn't want him, and it wasn't because of his personality. Why do we keep putting cameras on this? Can the league step? It's not the WWF. Okay? Let's step up to professionalism is the only comment I would make. And honestly, if I'm Goodell and some of these owners, I'm saying we better get in a room and figure some of this stuff out. Now, you're not going to fix it overnight. But I think that some of the incidents like this happen because I think it's just I think stuff is left to go too long. And Dave, you're right about the money in my view. As long as money's flowing in, you don't fix it. But I don't know if you can take that long of a view with the ticket prices and all the other stuff. It's never going to be empty statements. I'm not suggesting that.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that's their point of view.
I know, but I'm just saying that this kind of stuff, and I'm not talking about the mother who says, I don't want my kid to play football. I just think there's a lot of people and a lot of companies, a lot of people are going to say, you know what, can we find something else to do with our money? This kind of stuff is just, I'm tired of it. And I'm telling you, I ask a lot of people about all these things. Well, what do you think about that? What do you think about that? A lot of people that I've known here, they're not really paying a lot of attention to the NFL anymore. And some of them are not paying attention to some of the stuff that goes on in the NBA either.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think if I'm running these organizations and I'm at the head here, you got to be thinking about that a little bit. Even if the money is fat right now.
I was going to say the money is very fat, and it's not. I thought about that at the Pitt game last night. As I was shouting across the field, the fan who was right across to me, as we could all talk to each other. There were so few people there. The revenue at the gates are, there are revenue to be made there, but it dwarfs in comparison to the revenue they're making on TV. So.
No question.
I'm not sure it's important to get them in there, but
but I don't think TV and I don't think networks would like what they saw last night.
No, They're paying millions of dollars, and we've been seeing it for years. So
I don't think
I
we
agree
saw
with
that.
you, Gare. I agree with you. I don't like seeing it. I think Fletch, if I speak for you, doesn't like seeing it. But my mistake was thinking that the TV folks were putting pressure on these people to do it. They're not. They're obviously making money to be spending that kind of money.
Yep.
And it's a different world we live in.
Yeah, I think there is a fundamental change. That's true. I agree.
Yeah.
I
So
agree.
enough. You think not enough people are watching baseball? Apparently, enough are watching baseball.
A lot are watching baseball, which is what I have said all along, guys. I don't think it's as bad as the media makes that out to be.
Well, it hurts on a national level, but if you look at the ratings on a regional level, they're very healthy.
Lots of games at a time of the year where you can do a lot of things. So to me, that's valuable.
I was going to say, including the Pirates, who had tremendous ratings this year for what apparently they put out. I was stunned when I saw that. But
in a horrendous performance year, yeah.
Garrett, quick thought on boxing.
It's not a hell of a lot right now. I mean,
by the way, let me just mention this. In my computer tournament, Jack Dempsey in the first semifinal defeated Larry Holmes in a both guys were on the canvas twice in the doubt, and Dempsey pulled out a majority decision.
Wow.
Poor Larry
what I would have
Holmes,
expected. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Poor Larry Holmes didn't have the competition.
He didn't. No, but I mean, he's a great boxer.
An all-time great who suffered because of that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yep.
But, that's the major thing in boxing this week, Dempsey defeating Holmes in the first semifinal.
It is.
I'm going to hold Luis Marciano till tomorrow.
Okay.
Who you picking, Dave, before you go into that?
Boy, I'll tell you what, Marciano has got his ass kicked in three separate bouts for the first 4 rounds and just came back to beat the absolute shit out of somebody after that. So it's really running how I go with it. I'm going to pick Lewis just because I think he's close to matching him in power. And that's where the other guys failed. They were outboxing him, but once the power started coming. So I'm going to pick Lewis in a tough 12-round decision.
Let me ask you something, Dave. Do the Trunzos still give you prime, post-prime, pre? Do they give you? Are you prime?
For a couple. You're getting prime. Like they have a Cassius Clay and a Muhammad Ali.
Okay, so they're fighting at their primes, though.
So except for very few right now, what you get up front is a prime. And they probably will go back and do that again.
Okay. Well, the reason I say is because Lewis at his prime, people talked about that bum of the month. That's one of those media monikers that got carried. Yeah, there were some average fighters in there, Tony Galento, some others. Yeah. A lot of those guys he beat were top flight fighters, though. It wasn't the bum of the month that the media kept talking about. It really wasn't. So I would guess Lewis in that.
By the way, I forgot to cross Holmes off the list, as I've been doing. My tournament sheet.
I gotta download it. Because I love the sport, so I gotta download it. But I'm focused on some other work that we're doing, as I've told you, Dave.
Chris, I got the board game if you want it.
That's what I hear.
I'm sorry.
That's what I hear. I'm considering it.
It's yours if you want it. FOC free of charge, my friend.
It's still a great game.
Complete heavyweight cards.
Oh.
What those guys put together was a good product for 40 years. That's amazing. Really is.
Absolutely. It was nice to get the computer game. It has the feel of the board game rather than the graphics that it used to have, which kind of lost the feel of the board game. Yeah. So it kind of gives you a little of both, and I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. Absolutely.
Well, I don't know if the only thing I would say boxing wise, there's not a lot of other stuff to really talk about MMA wise, but boxing wise, I really think everybody, and I don't know if we want to get some input from our buddy, Douglas Kavanaugh, but the Wilder Ortiz one was one sensational heavyweight fight in March of 2018. And unlike what we often see in boxing these days, full credit to Wilder, who in the beginning I thought was a little bit of a fraud. I didn't particularly love his personality, but as time has rolled on, he's willing to fight anybody at any time, take a lot of risks. Full credit to him. This guy, Joshua, who's a body beautiful, has turned out to be nothing but a marketing situation in my view. I still don't know if he's going to beat Ruiz after that knockout he suffered, 6 months ago. And a lot of people don't, if you read some of the preview stuff that's out there and Ring and other stuff. But the first Ortiz-Wilder fight was not the most beautiful fight technically, but it was one hell of a brawl. Yeah. Wilder was hurt bad, and he was down. Ortiz was down twice and ended there. I think it's going to look a lot like that again. I really do. I think it'll be a little cautious in the beginning, but that is coming up on Fox pay-per-view next Saturday, the 23rd. And that would be one that if anybody likes boxing, listens to us, that one might be worth the money. The undercard's not tremendous. None of them are anymore. But that fight was a hell of a first fight. I have a feeling there's going to be some really dramatic stuff in that big boy division in that fight, too. And then 2 weeks later, on the 7th, is the Ruiz-Wilder rematch. It's funny how the book is a lot of people are now starting to swing to Wilder, and some of the British to Joshua. I don't see it. I don't see it. With that kind of violent knockout, Ruiz is still fast-handed. He's going to be better this time. Expecting full. I'm kind of sticking to what I said the first time. It may not be a knockout this time. Could Joshua win? Yes. I still think Ruiz is going to win. If it's a boxing match, I kind of like Ruiz. Joshua is so body beautiful and he's so muscled up. He runs out of gas. Ruiz looks like he's eating too many pizzas, but he never does.
He never does eat the pizza?
He looks like he's eating a lot of pizzas. He looks like he's eating a lot.
I was going to say.
A lot of aggression.
You can say he's good, but don't give me the pizza thing.
We haven't had two heavyweight fights of significance in 3 weekends in quite some time. You might have to go back 20-some years for that. And it's an interesting time, and actually I think the fights can be very entertaining as well. So that's really like boxing-wise or other combat sport, whatever you want to call it, like they call it today. Those are really the biggest things to talk about.
If you had the computer game, you could, which I am going to do. I am going to make these fights on Trunzo.
I don't know if Ruiz is in there though. I don't think Ruiz is in there.
They made a card for him that I took a snapshot of. So I'm going to make the card.
Wow,
in the game.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Joshua, Wilder, and Ortiz are probably in there.
Yeah, they are. They are. But Fletch, I know you wanted to talk a little about L. Johnson coming over to the Steelers camp.
Oh, yeah. Actually, guys, after last night, I needed something uplifting. So where did I go? I went to YouTube. And, guys, it is a haven for sports from our youth. It really is.
Yeah. Totally.
I watched World Series highlights and broadcasts. I watched the 1972 Steeler-Viking game.
Oh, that was classic. I watched that a couple of weeks ago.
I saw This Week in Pro Football with Pat Summerall and Tom Brookshire. I saw some classic fights. I love the primitive graphics, the great commercials. I didn't know they used to do all these tire commercials. Do you guys remember these tire commercials? They would talk about the technology of tread. It was fascinating.
Yeah. And there was a lot. You're right. There was a lot of car ads and tire.
There are.
There were scoreboards without jumbotrons. I saw remember the Three Rivers things where they would make people's faces out of those lights?
I remember this.
Yes, I remember that.
Yes, the clapping hand.
I watched part of the 69 World Series at Shea Stadium, and everyone was wearing suits.
And hats.
There's great radio audio. I watched the 1972 World Series. There's a clip on there, fellas, from the first game ever played at Parc Jarry.
Classic.
I'm going to be posting that on our Facebook page later tonight.
Please.
I saw a young Reggie Jackson hitting a home run in Fenway in '69. I saw Frank Howard hit his 39th home run of the year in 1968. I watched the Vin Scully call of the Kirk Gibson home run.
Yep.
Yeah.
Guys, it was 3 hours before I knew what I had been doing there.
It's fantastic stuff. It is.
How empty was the tap by the time you were done?
Oh, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
You know, I had forgotten how much I missed ESPN Classic when that first came on. Do you guys remember that?
Oh yeah.
They have ESPN Classic. I didn't realize. I thought they did away with it.
Wish we'd
We
come
just
back.
don't carry it.
What?
There's ESPN. I forget where we were, but ESPN Classic was on.
Oh.
It's not bought by a lot of the current cable packages in the pay.
No, but they still have it.
I think they do still have it, but it's rare to get it though.
Yeah.
But guys, it was interesting seeing fields that weren't perfect.
I agree.
The graphics, again, they were so primitive.
Primitive.
Such charm with them.
Yeah, well, you pay more attention to what was going on in the field than worried about all the running scores and all this other nonsense, like a business page. Yep.
It was just, and just some of the older announcers too. It was great.
Yeah.
Yep.
Great. And
Yeah.
it's what
The
I
only thing I'll add to that too is, boy, like in boxing, like if you want to look up Ketchel Papke 3, 1909, it's a little grainy and stuff, but you can find it's amazing how far you can go back.
Yeah.
Well, Gary, as you had sent your chapter for the Pittsburgh First book on Walcott Charles.
Yep.
They have that on there. I went back and watched that.
Almost a full fight. Almost a full fight.
Yeah, went back and watched that.
Yep. It's amazing what is out there. That's where the modern world is very good.
Well, and let me tell you, from what we do with writing our books, to me, that is the greatest way to research a book is not only newspaper articles from the time, but watch the game as it took place, and write as I like to write as a reporter for those games.
Yep.
As I'm watching it for the first time.
Right.
Yep. Couldn't agree more.
I mean, you read some of the hashes of the games that have been written in the last few years, some of those classic games, they missed the mark on it. They're not,
I agree.
But
I agree.
needless to say,
Dave, about the book, I went back and I thought, boy, Walcott wasn't known as a huge puncher. I thought, what the hell happened here? So I started reading about the Lewis fight.
Yeah.
He almost had Lewis out in that first round of their fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
He let Lewis off the hook, and I swear that had an effect on him in that fight with Ezra Charles that third time. I swear.
It probably did.
I swear.
I mean, it was a great fight. I mean, Charles, the classic
boxer, mover.
Classic boxer who had a weak chin at the heavyweight level.
Yep.
Basically.
Much smaller. Yep.
Yeah. But, as you say that, Chris, mine is the opposite end. While you were having Nirvana, and if I may say, if the FCC allows me, multiple orgasms, watching this stuff.
Dave. Park Cherie.
I was in the need to juice as I was listening to the Pitt pregame show yesterday. Because I'll tell you what, if you don't have a pregame show where you're getting people fired up about the game, talking about the game, splitting it down, telling me what these two teams are going to be up against, you're wasting your time. They had 10 minutes on asking people, do you know somebody from UNC? Why? Who cares about that? If you're trying to get people fired up to watch Pitt football, this ain't the way to do it. I don't care about some trainer who's Emil Boris's son or whatever the hell he is on the sideline. I don't know if he's a trainer or not, because I was so disinterested, I turned it off. That's why I don't know what Emil Boris's son does on the sideline.
And Emil Boris is a really nice guy, by the way. He sells a mean copier.
Yes, and I don't mean to disrespect his son. It's just not what I want to listen to. I want to know about this quarterback on NC. I want to know this is the premier game in the Coastal Division this week.
And I want to know why the Pitt had such trouble with this team. That's what I want to know. Why haven't they been able to beat them for 4 years?
Right.
Apparently, and I'm not going to mention names, but apparently the people on there, and it's not Paul Zeiss, who I've got to assume was frustrated as hell. But, you do what you're assigned. And it's not their fault. It's what they're being told to do is my point. So I can't, I don't want to come out and say these guys are this and these guys are, because they're not. This is what they're asked to do. It's the network and I'm assuming Pitt behind it, that somehow thinks these soft, funny things are going to get people to watch the game. They're not. They're not. They may get them to watch the pregame show, people who don't care about the Pitt game.
Well, we all know that Paul Zeiss is permanently angry anyway. It doesn't matter what it is.
But the difference between a Zeiss anger and somebody else's, he's at least going to throw solid facts and knowledge at you to defend his position, and I respect that.
He does make me laugh, though.
He does. He's a bitter man, but I respect the guy, whether I agree with him or not. You come at me and tell me why you think the way you think.
Right.
Quickly, Garrett, your prediction.
I mean,
Gotta get a hat, Gary. God damn it, get a hat.
Son of a bitch. Quit your him and Han. All right, he's going to look for a hat.
There we go.
I'll pick the
There
first
we go.
one. I'll pick the first one. And it's a hockey hat. So
That's not a predictor hat. God,
it's Canadian, so I'll put this on because I wasn't prepared.
All
I
right.
think my prediction is a little bit longer term, and I'll be short because it looks like the time.
Yes.
I hate to see Crosby go, but it's funny. Some of Malkin's best days, if he can stay healthy for a change, have been when Crosby's been out.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we do have most people back. I think the Hornquist loss is hurting a little bit right now, but Murray's been a lot better. And there's an interesting article in the Hockey News on Murray, if you guys look that up, on the internet or whatever. Murray and Hart, the kid here. I actually think the Penguins are going to do just fine here. I don't think they're going to catch the Capitals or Islanders all of a sudden. I think my prediction, the first thing I come up with is I think despite the fact that he's going to be out till mid-January, I think they're going to weather the storm. They're going to go through a little bump in the beginning. I think they're going to weather the storm just fine.
Yeah. He says that as he watches the New Jersey Devil game tonight.
Well, it's one game, and as Fletch said, they see that red jersey and they can't win.
I mock Garrett because I love you. Okay?
I know.
Okay.
But I think they're actually going to be all right because they do give a lot of teams a lot of problems with the speed that they have now and the way that they're playing again. I don't see it changing. So my prediction is I think they're going to weather this okay. Not perfectly, but okay, honestly.
All right. Fletch.
Guys, the NFL came down on Marquise Pouncey during the whole melee that happened last night. Here's my prediction. His suspension is going to go from 3 to 2 games. And why is it 2 games? Because they wanted to make sure that he would not face the Browns again during the rematch.
Oh, okay.
That's right on.
I thought you were going to use the Spinal Tap statement. Why 2 games? Because it's more than one.
That's
Okay. One more than one.
Especially since we just recently celebrated Nigel Tufnell Day, when we all turned it up to 11 on 11/11.
I like it.
But that is my prediction that we will see that suspension move down to 2 games.
I think you're probably right on. Yep.
Sounds good. Quickly, I'm just going to give you, because the Steelers aren't playing, which I would not watch the Steelers anyway this week because it's the CFL Final Four.
Yeah.
Real quick, I'm just going to say the Ticats at home, a favorite of mine. They're going to go. And Saskatchewan, why? I say why not. Okay? There we go.
The fucking Saskatchewan, Dave.
That's as analytical as anything.
Saskatchewan. It's a cool name.
Analytical
It's
as
a
anything.
fun word to say.
Saskatchewan.
Saskatchewan. Yeah.
And my other quick prediction is going to be Oklahoma is going to kick Baylor's ass this Saturday night.
I'll buy that one.
For what they truly are.
I can see that one.
I'll buy that one.
I have the angle on the hat. Nobody said anything. I'm a little hurt. It's my first angle.
Mustard yellow, man. You're styling, boy.
Yeah, but anyways, gentlemen, it's been a great show. We'll see you next week.
All right.